here's two dumb things that naturally go together: religion and flat earth lunacy. But when a Baptist preacher starts pretending that atheists are dumb because we won't fall for their rhetoric, it turns out that the religious are clearly the dumbest of them all. So, here we go again. I've done a lot of theists lately who clearly have no clue what reality even smells like. They have no direct experience with the real world. They spend all of their time hiding in their echo chambers and pretending that they've got a good handle on it all, and anyone who disagrees, well, they're just dummy poo-poo pants. And nowhere is this more true than this guy who wants to pretend that atheists are worse than flat earthers, while only proving that he's the worst of them all. These idiots are like vampires. They don't have any mirrors around so they can self-reflect. So let's do them a favor and set the record straight.
Go to Psalms 53. Psalms 53. Why is it that they reject Christ? Because they reject the Bible.
And there's a good reason for that. There is no evidence at all that the Bible is worthwhile. Yeah, I know you don't care about evidence, only about your own precious little fee-fees, but for rational people, for skeptical people, that's not going to convince anyone. It shouldn't convince you. What's wrong with you anyway?
They reject God. They're wicked. Psalms 53, verse 1. It's going to sound familiar. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God.
And the rational person shouts it from the mountaintops. You simply have no evidence for your silly beliefs, no matter how they might make you feel. I know this is something the religious will never admit to because, the facts don't matter, but it is the case. Until you can provide objective, demonstrable evidence that the Bible is true or your imaginary friend is real, we have no reason whatsoever to take any of your silly beliefs seriously. I'm not sure why that's so hard for you people to get.
Now look, the Bible has lots of information, but if God literally puts the exact same thing in there multiple times, it's important.
Well, that's your assertion. Or it could be that whoever wrote these books simply stole previous content that they personally liked and just repeated it. That's not something that you're willing to consider, though, is it? Because your faith gets in the way of your critical thinking skills. You're so wedded to this silly God idea that you can't consider any other options, including options that make a whole lot more sense. These people go leaping to theological conclusions that are simply not borne out by the evidence because being skeptical and asking honest and rational questions, well, that doesn't get them the dopamine hit in the brain that they're after. It's why talking to these people is such a complete waste of time.
He wanted to stress something. You are a fool if you reject God.
Says who? Some Bronze Age goat herder who wrote down their crazy beliefs on a scroll somewhere? Sorry if that's not impressive to me. You're going to have to do a whole lot better than that. But you can't, which is why you're only talking to the already delusional and not the atheists. Because the atheists would wipe the walls with you, and you know it. So you hide and pretend you know more about us than we do ourselves. You're a joke, Pastor. A complete joke.
You are a fool to deny the existence of God. It's literally the dumbest thing on the planet.
No, it's probably one of the most rational. The dumbest thing you can do is believe something for which you have no evidence of any kind. Meaning, you people. But this is what happens when you don't understand the rules of the game that you're playing. I know he's going to talk about flat earthers in a minute, so I'm going to beat him to the punch. Those people don't get it either, and for, let's be honest, Exactly the same reasons. The overwhelming majority of flat earthers are fundamentalist Christians, something that I figure the good pastor here will entirely overlook. And they believe the earth is flat because their interpretation of the Bible insists that it is. How are they doing anything different than what this dude is doing? Dumb and Dumber? Meet the absolute dumbest.
I am not joking. They make flat earthers look intelligent.
Which just makes it clear that you've never spoken to either. And that's not a surprise. You people are terrified to set foot outside of your pathetic little safe space and engage with real people on real subjects in the real world. Because that's scary and you can't have that. But sure, let's see how much of a fool this guy can make of himself. This ought to be good.
I'm not joking. Look, a flat earther could be saved. Hey, at least they acknowledge that someone created it.
Ah, so he does know that it's all theists on the lunatic flat earth side. At least he's not quite that dumb. Close, but no cigar. But you notice that he's basing all of this on blind faith and not one whit on facts. Because, facts don't matter. It's all just feelings and ignorance tied up in a neat little bow by the shyster behind the podium. And his followers lap it up and pay him for the privilege of being lied to. Funny how they never figure it out. Wait, funny? That's not quite the right word. What is it? Pathetic. It's pathetic.
I could believe that the earth was created flat more than denying the existence of God. Why? Because it's literally the dumbest thing on the planet.
It doesn't matter how much you repeat the insanity, it doesn't make it any less insane. This is exactly why we laugh at the religious. They don't stop to think about anything they believe. If they did, this idiot would be walking right off that stage with his head hung in shame. Because seriously, it's kind of hard to be nuttier than this dude is. Now, sure, he's calling the flat earthers crazy because they are, but he fails to recognize that the reason they're crazy is because they believe what they think the Bible says, just like this nutball does. They're both nuts for the same reason, and he doesn't even know it.
And they're willingly stupid. They're willingly ignorant. They're willingly dumb. You say, why are you using this type of language, these type of words? Well, the Bible called them fools, did it not?
And you believe the Bible why? Because it's always going to come right back to that question. Whether you like it or not, faith isn't an excuse. It doesn't give you carte blanche to simply ignore reality because reality gets in the way of your pathetic little fifis. But that's exactly what religion does. It's all religion does. It's all religion can do. It's emotionally comforting lies for the sake of emotionally comforting lies to the detriment of all rational and critical thought. And for some reason, this guy thinks that's a good thing.
Let me just read for you the dictionary definition of the word fool, okay? A person who acts unwisely or imprudently, a silly person. Its synonyms are idiot, nincompoop, buffoon, dunce, dolt, ignoramus, imbecile, moron.
Fine. I mean, you haven't established rationally that atheists are fools. You're only going by a ridiculous book of mythology. But hey, we can play the dictionary game too. How about delusion? By the dictionary, that means an idiosyncratic belief or impression that is firmly maintained despite being contradicted by what is generally accepted as reality or rational argument, typically a symptom of mental disorder. Selected synonyms are mistaken impression, false impression, mistaken belief, mistake, error, and misbelief. And who here does that accurately describe? I'm
not just making this up. I'm just trying to do what the Bible says. The Bible says to put the words of God in modern vernacular, to make it plain, that he that readeth may run. The Bible says that God has ordained preaching. So look, I'm going to make it plain. What is a fool? It's an idiot.
It's you. Because we keep coming back around to that very basic question. Who cares what the Bible says? You haven't established any intellectual reason to take this silly book of mythology seriously. So you're sitting up there and telling people that you're just going to take this absurd book at its word. That doesn't portray you as an intellectual person. It just makes you look like a moron. Until you can provide a solid, objectively verifiable reason to believe the Bible, you're the fool.
If we look up idiot in the dictionary, it says someone with a mental illness or a very low level of intelligence. These people have a sickness of the mind.
Says the deluded idiot who can't see where they are being entirely irrational. Now, I don't want to sit here and just trade insults with this guy because it's childish, but really, when you get all of your ideas from a big book of multiple choice and your own absurd interpretations, it's no wonder that you make a complete fool of yourself. And that's all the religious do these days. I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos showing them doing it. I'd really love to encounter a theist who could be rational. But if they could do that, they wouldn't be a theist, would they? These people are fundamentally broken. It's just sad.
And look, they're worse than the mentally handicapped. I looked up the mentally handicapped. The dictionary says someone who is not able to learn or develop skills at the same rate as most other people because they have a problem with their brain.
Meaning you. Because developmentally, you're stuck. Most people give up on imaginary friends before they hit puberty. Now, I can't be for sure, but I'm going to assume that you're older than that, so yeah, you're stuck. Most people develop at least rudimentary critical thinking skills. You haven't, or at least you refuse to apply them to your religious beliefs. You're just slow. I don't know how else to put it.
It is now considered more polite to say that someone has a developmentally disability or that they are learning disabled.
Well, looking in the mirror again, I guess. Because you people don't learn. Your beliefs are not open to revision based on new data. You don't care if what you believe is true. You only care if it makes you feel good. Everything you're saying applies far more to yourself than it does to anyone else. Why do you keep doing that?
You can't sugarcoat it. Look, obviously someone's slow. That's not necessarily their fault. It's not necessarily someone's fault if they have a mental handicap or if they have some kind of a disability. And I'm not mad at those people.
Yeah, that's why you're standing up in front of a congregation insulting them, right? Because you're not mad. No, why would anybody ever think that?
You know, we should love those people. We should be kind to those people. The Bible says it would be wicked to be mean to people that are blind or dumb or maybe are slow or ignorant, as the Bible says.
You mean all those things that God could fix in a second, but doesn't? Because your God is a douchebag. Or, more properly, there's no reason to think your God is real in the first place. But yeah, I know, there I go being all rational and stuff. I gotta stop that, right?
You know what? These atheists are different because they're willingly ignorant. They're choosing to be mentally handicapped on purpose.
That would be you. And for someone who claims not to be mad, you sure seem to be yelling a lot. You are mad. Why? Because people willingly choose to reject your mind-poison-laced Kool-Aid. They refuse to become part of your asinine cult. They refuse to pay you. That pisses you off. But instead of going out and talking to the atheists and trying to present your evidence that your beliefs are true and listening to their objections, you spend all of your time sitting in an echo chamber telling a bunch of other ignorant people exactly what these atheists are like. And how would you know? Where did you get your information? Oh, right, your stupid book. How could I forget?
How stupid! You know, the Bible says in Hebrews chapter 5, who can have compassion on the ignorant? You know, we ought to have compassion on people that are unaware of what the Bible teaches.
Why? Because you'd have to be sure that the Bible is worthwhile in the first place, and you don't care about that. You just assume that it is. You assert that it is. You can't actually prove that it is. And when we point out to you that you've got nothing and your emperor is buck naked, you get offended and call us names because we dare to think before we believe. Maybe you ought to give it a shot. You never know where that might lead.
We ought to love them and want to go out and preach the gospel to them and make the gospel manifest and help them call upon the name of the Lord. But you know what? These atheists are not that category. They are not ignorant. They're willingly ignorant. They're deciding to be stupid on purpose.
Yeah, they're not ignorant. They're willfully ignorant, which is exactly the same thing. I mean, seriously, do you listen to yourself? Probably not, because if you did, you'd walk right off that stage ashamed of yourself and your own ignorance. Your own willful ignorance. Because rational adults don't act like you do. You're acting like a petulant child. You're only concerned with your own feelings, and anyone who dares point out that you're wrong, well, they're suddenly ignorant. No, you are, and you're proud of it. That's the sad part. You are proud of the ignorance that you wallow in. You don't care if anything you believe makes any sense, so long as it strokes your ego and pushes the right buttons. Hey, you'll believe anything. It just doesn't matter. It's why the flat earthers believe what they do, because their religious faith dictates it, just like your religious faith dictates all of the insane things that you believe. And then you get mad because others, an increasing number of others in fact, are getting out from under the oppressive thumb of religion. So you call them names that apply more aptly to yourself and pretend that you have the slightest clue what's going on. Dude, you don't know a damn thing. You're just pathetic.
Bum